So, the WRF, meaning the Weather Research and Forecasting Model, is like a numerical laboratory, right? A laboratory for numerical experimentation. Is a full-fledged numerical weather prediction model. Okay, and all that which you have studied till today in MSc class, starting from your first semester, whether it is atmospheric dynamics or atmospheric physics, modeling of atmosphere, or NWP, everything everything is applied in this WRF model. Okay, so it's like a laboratory. Our laboratory is not like the physics laboratory or chemistry laboratory, right? Our laboratory is like a open air laboratory, either for the observatory or like a numerical laboratory, with the computational, right? Computational laboratory. So WRF is actually a, a numerical laboratory, okay, in which you can do all kinds of experimentations, all the things which you can imagine, whether you make a hypothesis or you make some assumptions and just want to do some experiment, you can do with this WRF model, right? So that is the great thing. And the greatest thing is that this model has been made available to the entire scientific community. Okay, anybody from anywhere in the world can download the model, and very good tutorials are available, very good documentation is available. Thousands of people around the world, they are using this WRF model. So this encourage people who are the main developers of the WRF model, with a team of other scientists from different organizations in USA like NOAA, NASA, NSAP, and many other laboratories in USA as well as outside USA. Now, people have contributed in the development of the WRF, which started sometime back in 2002 or 2003. Right, it was made available to the public around that time. And before that, before the WRF model, what was the producer of the WRF model?
MM5.
Yes, exactly. It was the MM5, which was there for 20 years before that. Right? MM5 was available, used by the people almost 20 years before that. That means like from early 90s or even before that, it was available to the community. So they upgraded to WRF model because in that period many new things were developed, many new understandings were reached about the physical processes, about the dynamics, new things about the computer. So the code was rewritten in such a way that it could be optimized according to the new computer architecture systems. So it was made available sometime around 2002 or 2003, and then again continuously they started adding all the features which were available in the MM5 in those days. And I think in about 5-6 years time from the first date of release of WRF model, all the features of MM5 were made available in the WRF model also. Okay, with better options, better resolutions, better physics, and many other things. Now they also try to add things like WRF data simulation. It was also there in MM5, but only a very basic version of the data simulation, right? But now WRF model also has an advanced version of data simulation called WRF-DA. You'll find different options in that. Then they also developed the WRF Chem for the WRF chemistry. Okay, all the chemicals, reactions which take place in the atmosphere, chemical transport, etc. So the WRF Chem is available. They made it available for that. And WRF Climate is also available for CLIM, WRF CLIM. People who are interested in climate runs, long runs, like 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, those people, they developed a slightly different version called WRF CLIM for climate. Then people who were interested only in the tropical cyclone, so they slightly modified it to make it WRF HWRF, Hurricane WRF. Okay, then WRF Polar is also there. Like somebody is interested in Antarctica, right? Weather simulations over the Antarctica, so or Arctic region, right? The snow blizzards, etc. They can run the WRF Polar. So many versions of WRF are now available. WRF Hydro is also available for those who want to use the WRF for simulating the floods, forecasting the floods, right? Flood forecasting. So as of now, many versions of the WRF are available for different applications. And really, thanks to all the community, which do the research, do the development, and then share with the community. Okay. So with this brief background, and also, as you may be knowing that every 3-4 months, they upgrade the model to a new version. The latest one is probably WRF 4.2, probably 4.2.1, something like that. So whenever the people make some improvement, then they inform the developers group, the core group of the developers, that we have made this improvement and we have tested this and it is giving better results. So the WRF core group once again tests it, runs to verify the claim, and if it is found correct, then they implement into the model and the version is upgraded. Okay, at least twice in a year they definitely do that. Okay, all versions. Also, they have been conducting the tutorials twice in a year, once during the winter and once during the summer. Generally, winter tutorial is done in the month of January and summer is done in the month of May or June. But this year, because of the COVID, the tutorial was done only online, because earlier all the tutorials were done physically. People used to register for that and then physically go to NCAR border and attend the classes. But because of the COVID-19 this year, it was not held physically, but online tutorials were held, online lectures were held, and all the lectures are available online. Also, the old lectures, the old tutorials are also available online. Previous years, whatever tutorials were conducted, all PowerPoints you can find out on the website there. All right. So that's one good thing. Then about the post-processing, because unless you do the post-processing, you will not be able to see the result. So there are different post-processors available, like how to post-process your data or output from the WRF model and then plot it in different forms to see your results, like how to plot it using the grads. So there is a post-processor available for the grads conversion. Then there is a post-processor available for NCAR graphics, MCL, NCAR commanding language. You should learn that also. Now, if you have not learned, I don't think you have learned the NCAR graphics, but you should learn that because it has got a lot of good features, some of which are not available in the grads. Then along with NCAR graphics, there are other features like RIP, which is based upon the NCAR graphics, which gives further many things to plot very nice outputs in colorful forms, and many diagnostics which are not available in the grads are available through RIPs. So you should learn the RIP also in NCAR graphics. Then Vapor. Have you heard of the Vapor? Yes or no? Nobody is.
Yes, sir.
So Vapor is also available as a post-processor of the WRF, and you can plot the output using the Vapor, which makes it look three-dimensional. Three-dimensional plot, volume rendering. So different groups are working in different aspects of the model. Like some group is purely dedicated to development of the Vapor. Some group is purely dedicated for development of RIP, NCL, grads, and so on, right? So at least you should all learn 2-3 of them, 2-3 packages, to be able to represent your outputs in the best attractive form. Okay, so these are the initial introduction. Then, as I said, all the tutorials are available. So what I will do is I will use their latest tutorial to explain to you, the main parts of the WRF. There are many tutorials available, I mean, on different aspects which you can go through yourself. But the main one is like, what is the basic fundamentals of the WRF model that I like to explain. Then I'll like to explain about the WRF physics part. I'll like to explain how to compile the model, although some of you have already attempted, but still many of you have not done, so it will be useful to them. And then I'll try to explain also the WRF data assimilation, because that is very important, right? So these parts I'll try to explain, although it is just I mentioned 3-4 topics, but then explaining the 3-4 topics actually will take many lectures. I'll try to be faster because anyway those things are available online tutorial. All right. So I'll directly use that tutorial rather than making my own PowerPoint slides. All right. And you can always refer back to those tutorials. I'll give you the links for that. You can search also yourself those links. All right. So starting with this introduction to the WRF modeling system presented by Wei Wang was in the January 2020 tutorial. All right. Let me put in the view full screen mode. Is it visible now clearly?
Yes, sir.
Great. So this is a tutorial presentation made by Wei Wang, scientists working at NCAR, and this was presented to people in January 2020 who attended this workshop physically. Okay. Of course, nowadays, because already almost 20 years have passed since WRF was first released. So they have already started working on the new version of the WRF model. You might have heard about that MPAS. Have you heard about the MPAS? MPAS.
Yes,
Yes or
sir.
no? Yes, good. Yeah. So MPAS is model prediction across scales. There are certain limitations people notice in the WRF model, although people try to use WRF model also for the global domain. Mostly these are mesoscale models. They started with a mesoscale modeling system. But later on, people started using it for global application also. Then they found that there were some problems in the global application using the WRF model, especially the boundary problems were there. So then they tried to make it a WRF hemispheric, like running it for the entire northern hemisphere separately and entire southern hemisphere separately. And then after that, they tried to combine both the hemispheres and make it global. But still, they found the problem. So then they started developing the MPAS, the model prediction across scales, and that is the latest one, which is still under development. And they are slowly adding one by one different features in MPAS. All the features which are available in WRF, they are now also they are trying to add in the MPAS. So slowly, all of you should also try to start using MPAS model, because that will be again the future after 4 or 5 years probably WRF. Now support will be withdrawn, all the model will be there. Now you can still use the model, but now the user support may be withdrawn for the WRF, and that user support will be given only for the MPAS model. So MPAS will be the future, and that will stay for another 20 years or so, or more than that, right? So gradually you should switch on to MPAS one by one. The advantage in an MPAS is that, as it says, it is a model prediction across scales. So it is very useful, especially for the very high resolution applications, right? And other thing is that you can zoom, like you can zoom in the area of your interest. For example, you can configure the MPAS to run over the whole globe, but you can zoom over Indian region, right, in the area of your interest. In other words, you can have very high resolution over Indian region and a coarse resolution over the rest of the globe. Okay, so that facility is there. Something similar is also available in the WRF, like nesting. When you say nesting, that's what exactly it means. Nesting means you have got a parent domain or a mother domain, which you have got a child domain or a nested domain, and you can have several nested domains within domains, right? So the inner domain will have a higher resolution, the outer domain will have a coarser resolution, right? That in that way it is available. But then there are some discontinuities found at the boundaries interfaces, which they try to correct in the MPAS model, right? So anyway, that is another model. So we will not talk about that now. Maybe in future we will try to discuss about that later on. Maybe some of you can do your projects on MPAS using MPAS. That will be also good idea. But then since all the features of the WRF model is not available in MPAS, so still there are some limitations in that. Okay, so today we are going to discuss briefly about the introduction. I'll try to finish this. Let us see if it is possible or not, because we have already lost a lot of time. Not lost, we have been discussing. It's already how much, 120 or approximately. So in this, they discuss about what is WRF, a brief history of WRF, what does WRF look like to you, the user, some basic concepts about limited area modeling, what is covered in this tutorial, what should you expect to gain from this tutorial. Okay, the other things we have discussed. Let us see how much we finish today in next 10 20 minutes. Well, I can finish till 2 o'clock if you are ready. So what is WRF now? You know already. It is a weather research and forecasting model. Okay. And by the way, WRF model, when it was developed, then in the beginning itself, two groups were separated, right? Like the NSEP people were also the part of the developers. Right from the MM5 days, during the MM5 also NSEP people were involved. But when they changed to WRF, they started saying that the NSEP people, especially, they started saying that we will try to utilize the dynamics part as in the NSEP model, right? NSEP model dynamics we will try to utilize the WRF, whereas the core group of WRF, which were based on NCAR people, they said that no, we will continue with the dynamics of the NCAR, MM5. So there itself it was split into two groups, and as a result, the development of WRF took place, or evolution of WRF took place in two directions separately. One direction called it as WRF ARW, and other group call it as WRF NMM. You heard about that? Have you heard about that? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, good. So you have heard about that. So WRF ARW is the Advanced Research Board, which is the NCAR group basically used based upon the dynamics of the model used in the MM5, whereas NMM uses the dynamics of the NSEP model. NMM now stands for, I think, what is that? Non-hydrostatic mesoscale model, NMM, non-hydrostatic. So they say that in the NMM version, they have got the non-hydrostatic dynamics, which is better suitable for simulating the non-hydrostatic systems like thunderstorms and square lines and so on. Right? Well, it's okay in some way, but almost same thing is also possible in the WRF ARW. All right, because once you reduce your resolution, it is supposed to take care of the non-hydrostatic dynamics, right? Because you know that an hydrostatic assumption, hydrostatic condition is valid only for the large-scale atmosphere, right? Not for the mesoscale atmosphere. Mesoscale, meaning that when you are running a model at 10 kilometer resolution or less than that, then your large-scale dynamics is not valid and your hydrostatic assumptions are not valid. So they treat the NMM, non-hydrostatic mesoscale model in the NMM WRF. So that is some fundamental difference between the two, but by and large, even WRF ARW can simulate the non-hydrostatic dynamics at very high resolution when you are configuring it at 10 kilometer or below. So, okay. So, as you know, this is a community model. Okay, that is a free and shared resource with distributed development and centralized support. Its development is led by NCAR, of course, NOAA, ESRL, I think Environmental System Research Laboratory of USA, and NOAA, you already know, NSEP, EMC also, Environmental Modeling Center, with partnership with AFWA, the Air Force Weather Agency of USA. The Air Force people, they are also significantly contributing to the development of WRF. In our India also, Indian airports, they are not contributing for the development, but they have a separate NWP cell. You may be knowing that. NWP cell is directorate is there in the airports, Indian airports. And they have also been actively using the WRF model, ARW, especially the FAA, Federal Aviation, I think, Association or something like that. DOE, Department of Energy, PNNL is very important, very prestigious lab of USA. Pacific, I think, is the best host. I don't remember the full form. Last is laboratory, this first is Pacific, something like, no, I don't remember the full form anyway. So this is a very prestigious laboratory under the DOE, Department of Energy of USA, and collaboration with universities and other government agencies in the US and overseas also. Okay, so all these are the contributors to WRF. Okay, this is the history of WRF model. You can just go through yourself, starting from WRF version 1, which was released sometime back in 2002 or 2003, just overlapping here. Then it evolved, and currently, I think even later versions will be available, because this is released in July 2019, WRF 4.1.2. I think the 4.2 is available nowadays. Right, you can see the latest one. Right. So these are the different releases of the WRF model. Okay, and this is for their own advertisement publicity, that these are the global people, how they are using, who are using the WRF model all around the world, and all these dots, etc., which you see are the countries where WRF model is used. Okay, as of July 19, 2019, 185 countries were using the WRF model, and almost like how much, 4,07,700 users were there. US alone had 12,000 users, and foreign had 34,935 users. Okay, and how the growth of the users took place is demonstrated here in this graph. Starting from 2000, the annual registration of the WRF model, how many people registered for the WRF model, and then how many people started using, and how there is a continuous growth of the users. Okay, and then these are just for the advertisement. So what is ARW? Some of you already know it. The Advanced Research WRF and non-hydrostatic mesoskeletal model, LMM, which I mentioned to you, which is basically the NSF group people. It is the dynamical core, includes mostly advection, pressure gradients, Coriolis, buoyancy, filters, diffusions, and time stepping. Okay, as you know, the main two parts of the model, one is dynamical core, another is the physics, right? So the dynamical core includes the advection, pressure gradient force, Coriolis force, buoyancy, etc., which you have studied in your atmospheric dynamics, dynamic meteorology subject. Okay, the RW support and development are centered at NCAR. NOM development is centered at NSET, okay, which I already mentioned to you, and support is provided by NCAR. DTC is the DTC is, I think, what is that, data something support center. Now only used for SWRF, that is the Hurricane WRF. Okay, so this tutorial is only for the ARW code. Okay, this is sufficient. Okay, this is used for many purposes. Now, one is the research tool. You can do all kinds of research of atmospheric dynamics and atmospheric physics using WRF model, and it can also be used for real-time weather forecasting. Right? Like this is a demonstration of the idealized simulation of a square line thunderstorm, right? Or you can say a tornadic storm. Right? You can simulate the idealized cases, like you have already seen so many idealized cases are available. So this is just one illustration of the idealized square line or tornado. They can also use for real-time weather forecasting purpose. Okay, many people use that. Many countries use that. So what is ARW? It is a research tool, and you can use it for application of convective scale forecasting, like very high resolution forecast, also for convective scale data assimilation, now, or for the cyclone forecasting, cyclone track forecasting, cyclone intensity forecasting. Okay, and of course for the data assimilation, and also for the ensemble. Okay, ensemble forecasting also you can use it. Right? You already now know all about these things. What is atmospheric predictability, what is ensemble forecasting. So you can use it for ensemble forecasting also, right? So many purposes, you can use the WRF model. So again, as a research tool, you can have like nested domains, several domains configured around your region. Like there can be one major domain which can be, say, high resolution. Let us say this is a domain covering all of USA, all of Atlantic, almost all of Atlantic, part of Pacific, and also this Caribbean island, part of this southern part of America. The big domain, right? So this is domain number one, and this demonstration is 36 kilometer resolution. You can also similarly have our own region, a very big domain covering the entire RMC zone, regional specialized meteorological center, which IMD defines from 0 degree to 45 degree north, and from 60 degree to something like 145 degrees. Very big domain, RMC domain, very big domain. But at that domain, at that big domain, you have to have a coarser resolution. Like here, they have to use coarser resolution. Then inside that, you can have a nested domain, second domain, which is slightly finer, at 12 kilometer resolution. Second domain. Then you can have a third domain, which is further higher resolution, 4 kilometer. Okay, and another domain also of the same resolution, which can also overlap with each other. So I mean, both choices are there, right? Or another domain further at higher resolution. So there can be many nested domains. I think there is a provision to nest up to 9 level nestings are available. Okay, and as I said earlier, it can be used for WRF climate applications like simulating the climate of the Earth for next 50, 100 years. Also, if you put the chemistry in that, uh, then you can use it for WRF chem, how the chemical constituents interact with each other, how they can influence the clouds, air pollution, etc. Especially WRF chem, people use it for the study of air pollution. Okay, and then try to simulate, given the sources of pollution, how the pollution will spread, right? How whether they will stay stagnant at a city, or they will spread, or the atmosphere will become clear. So those kind of things people try to study using WRF chem. Also, it can be used for data assimilation purpose. Assimilate all kinds of data, global data as well as regional data, and special data that you might collect on your own. So it can be used for data assimilation purpose. Okay, so it is a tool for research, develop and test physical parameterization schemes. As you shall see, shall discuss it. I got options for many types of physical parameterization. Each of the physical parameterization schemes that you have studied, like for radiation, there are so many options available. How to parameterize the radiation? There are so many ways to parameterize the radiation, and many options are available for that. Now, both for the short wave parameterization as well as for the long wave radiation parameterization. Similarly, for the convection cumulus parameterization, there are many options available from simplest to most complex, right? From core scheme, I think probably, I don't know, probably in the latest version, they might have withdrawn the core scheme. But no, it was available earlier. Core scheme, Arkawa-Subert scheme, simplified Arkawa-Subert scheme, relaxed Arkawa-Subert scheme. Okay, all those options are available. Kane-Frisch scheme, Betz-Miller scheme. There are some of the schemes I just mentioned. You can just look at the WRF documentation to see the whole full list of the schemes available for each of the each of the physical processes, cloud microphysics, convection, I already mentioned, then planetary boundary layer, PBL, then land surface processes, okay, surface fluxes, etc. So all those things are available as different options, and one can do all kinds of numerical experimentation as per your curiosity and imagination. Okay, then you can do the case studies, special case studies, like suppose some cyclone has occurred, like you might have heard in the television news that yesterday, day for yesterday, there was a very heavy rainfall in Hyderabad. Have you heard in the news? In the Telangana area.
Yes,
Are
sir.
you? Yeah, yeah. So probably the heaviest rain reported so far in Hyderabad. It has made the history. So much of rainfall occurred, and why it occurred? Because depression, land depression. Rather, it formed in the sea only, and it started moving, and then passed through Telangana, and then yesterday, last night it was already affecting Karnataka also, right? So it is a special case, right? You can just take up your special cases like the Kerala flood. Or your previous students, your senior students have taken up that project to study the Kerala floods. Okay, so you can take up those case studies of any cyclone or any thunderstorm, swell lines, etc. And then regional climate studies, as I mentioned, coupled chemistry, WRF fire is also available, like forest fires you might be hearing nowadays. Takes place a lot, especially in the USA. No, in the Indonesia region also it takes place a lot. Also in India it occurs in Uttarakhand area last year. I think some forest fire were reported. So it's not so severe as in the US every year. But so people have tried to slightly modify it to suit for simulation of the WRF forest fire. Then hydrological applications, like I said, for flood forecasting, etc. You can also use it for drought forecasting. Data assimilation, of course, one of the backbone of the NWP model. You can use it for that research. And about teaching modeling and NWP. Okay, so for all these research, now you can use the model as a tool. Then is also a tool for numerical weather prediction, real-time forecasting, hindcasting of the previous year, real-time operational forecasting, forecasting for wind, solar, and air quality, online, offline, everything you can use it, right? So now, especially for the wind farms, this diagram is illustrating a series of wind farms, and as you know, the wind farm requires the prediction of the wind, how much wind will blow in the next 24 hours, because their power generation is very much dependent, is dependent only on the wind, right? So they need to have a forecast, because they have to give it to the authority, the controlling authority, that they in advance they have to tell that they will be able to produce this much of power every day, so that the electricity authority, the power grid people, they know that this much of power, either this much of megawatts or gigawatts, whatever, will be available from this windmills grid, and the total demand may be something more than that. So power grid people will have to supplement the demand from other sources like thermal power or hydroelectric power, or nuclear power, thermal power plants, or so many things, right? You know that so many ways to generate the electricity, right? Nuclear, thermal, by coal, right? Burning the coal, or hydro, and also the windmill, right? So for the windmill, especially, it is dependent, highly dependent on the meteorological factors, right? So we need to know how much will be the wind, right, and forecast it so that they can produce accordingly the power. Or if they know that tomorrow the wind is not going to be very high, because very high wind is also problematic to them, because otherwise the wind van will be damaged. If wind speed is too strong, then it will be damaged, right? So they have to just shut down the system if the wind speed is forecasted to be very high. Like if there is a likelihood of a square line where the wind speed can be very high, like 100 kilometers per hour or so, or if there is a possibility of passage of a tropical cyclone where the wind speed will be very high. So to avoid the damage of the system, they will shut down the entire windmill, right? And similarly, if the wind speed is too low, then also they have a problem, because wind vans will not run otherwise, right? So they have to know in advance that how much wind speed will be available tomorrow, right? And accordingly, they inform the power grid people that we can produce only this much of power in the next 24 hours, right? So it's very important for that. So similarly for the solar, plants, there's solar plants available which generate solar power, right? But that depends on the cloud. If there is a cloudiness, the power will not be generated through those solar panels, right? If there is a cloudiness, if there is rain, in the night time, they cannot generate the power from the solar, right? So accordingly, they have to estimate that how much power they will be able to produce in the next 24 hours, and also inform the power grid people accordingly, the authority people accordingly, right? All the authorities, so that the authority will make adjustment from other sources. All right, I see that is already 140, and I have not covered more than 2-3 slides so far. So are you able to hear me? Shall we stop or continue for some time? What do you say? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So do you want to stop and then continue next time? Now next week onwards, every day we can discuss practical. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or in between if you want, also we can do that. So shall we stop today and then continue next week? We can do tomorrow also if you want to.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So what do you suggest? Next week?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So fine, but that will be the WRF lecture. But your exercise should continue. All those people who have not done the exercise yet, the previous exercises they have to do, right? And WRF will be after that. All right. So all right, for today I'm going to stop. Okay, and then we shall continue this class maybe till next week. Today is 15th, so by 22nd or so we'll try to complete at least whatever I thought to share with you about WRF, because there are too many things are available which cannot be completed in just few lectures, and those things I will leave it to you. You have to read yourself, right? In WRF itself, there are so many things available, and as I said, I will just speak on selected topics only. The rest of the topics I leave it to you to read yourself and understand, and then try. And if you have any problem, then you can always discuss. Okay, so. So selected topics I plan to complete by next week. So by next week, all your classes will be completed. Theory part is already completed. Practical class also I hope to complete by next week, so that after that you are free. And then it depends on when the university decides your USC end of semester exam. You have to just write the exam, okay? Because there is a plan that from November first week, the classes will start for the first semester, new students. All right. So that's it for today. I stop the presentation, and then after that I stop the recording also. Yeah, Asna has got today's recording.